Hello and welcome back to CST 2120. So in this lecture, I'm going to cover website design. So the website design process works roughly like this. Obviously, you can have multiple iterations, but broadly speaking, you start with some research. Then you do what's called a wireframe, which is like a rough sketch of the sort of outline of the website. Then you move on to a visual, which includes fonts, visual elements, a sort of richer idea of what the actual website's going to look like. And finally, you implement the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So research is a really important part of the whole website design process. You need to know what other websites look like. You need to have a careful think about the layout and contents of your site. It's much easier to sort of have a list of the contents at the beginning than to sort of randomly add stuff as it occurs to you. And one really good way of getting an idea about the contents that should be in your website is to look at similar websites. And so and often your website will link to other websites. So, grab your, any kind of links you need for your website. Also, as part of your search, you might meet some pictures. If the website's about you, maybe a picture of you, you on your bicycle, all that kind of stuff, and any other information that you're going to need. You also might want to put together, some of the text for your website at this research stage. Once you've done your research, you'll have an idea about what needs to go inside your website. But you don't just sort of rush off and build the HTML and CSS yet. You need to think about how this different content's going to be organized inside your site. And so people often use a kind of wireframe to sketch out, where things are going to go on each of their pages. Wireframe's not about sort of styling or graphics or looking pretty or glossy images. It's really just a layout of the website about what's going to go where. And it's usually a good idea to create a wireframe because it's much quicker and easier to change a wireframe than it is to change HTML, CSS. If you spend ages, getting some kind of grid layout using CSS, and then, suddenly you realize, oh, hey, I've got to, put a new element in, that's a real hassle, right? But if you do it at the wireframe stage, it's really easy to change. And these kind of wireframing idea is also really important if you're producing a website for a business or for your boss, for example. If you're working in a team to build a website for someone, you need to write, the best idea is to run the wireframe past the customer, get their feedback about that, fix the wireframe until the customer's happy with it, then move on to create a visual for the customer, make sure they're happy with that, and then you go off and implement the website. And just as a further comment on this, when we come back to the process, these different stages can often be carried out by different people. Someone might, more of a researchy person, might do all the research and write the text for the website and get the images and all that. Then the wireframe and the visual might be done by the graphical design team, who know all about fonts and images and all this kind of stuff. And then the HTML, CSS, JavaScript components that sort of implement the visual might be carried out by the technical people in the team. So if you look at the Guardian website, you can see that they've got different parts in different places, right? At the top of here, they've got, this is an old version of the website, but probably similar now. They've got a sort of space for an advertisement. Then they've got the kind of header of the website with the navigation bar, the logo, and all the sort of links, that kind of stuff. And then you've got kind of like, headlines and sort of little boxes containing the different stories. Another advert there, probably, or maybe that's actually a link into another part of the website. And then you've got, things like sort of links, other blocks containing news items of the weekend. And then at the bottom here, you've got another advert, So there's different components going different areas, and the wireframe is basically your sort of initial ideas about how that's going to work, So this is sort of one example of a wireframe. It's got like a column design. You're going to say have the navigation here, logo here, tagline, introduction, case study, and so on and so forth, and the footer there, And obviously there's lots of different ways of doing this. You might have the navigation down the side. The navigation might sort of pop up when you hover over something. You could put the introduction on the left, the client somewhere else. There's many, many different ways of organizing the material. And the most important thing about the wireframe is to make sure you have everything that you need in the wireframe. If you're missing stuff, then it's much harder to add later than at the wireframe stage. Now, to create these wireframes, there's lots of options, right? There's specialist on tools, often online. So Balsamic's a really popular one. I'll give you a quick demo of that. You can also use applications for vector drawing, photo editing, such as Illustrator or Inkscape, and I'll give you a little demo of Inkscape, which is useful for other things. Or you can just use pen and paper, right? You can sketch it out on a bit of paper about the different parts of the website, different pages, and what's going to go on these pages. So just to give you an idea, we'll just sort of show you how the Balsamic tool works. So here, absolutely, you have to sign in and you get like a free account that you can use some basic stuff with. So this is like a blank page I've got here, nothing in this page. So if I was trying to, design, let's say the registration page, let's pick an example here. So I might design a sort of navigation. Maybe it's going to have search here or something. And maybe, there'd be like a way of searching the website, let's say. So I've got this button here, and then I can good thing about Balsamiq is it has nice snap and alignment tools, which make your wireframes look a lot more professional. So if you do this for a boss or a customer, don't do it like I'm doing it, but anyway, that'll do. I can't be bothered to make it perfect. We might put it there, maybe, yeah. Okay, there we go, it's better, yeah. Okay, so maybe I've got search, and then quite possibly we'd have buttons, let's say, to do the navigation. Maybe not pointy buttons, but just regular buttons. So we might have like home, home, whatever it is, home. If this was your Coursework one, it'd be like game, and then probably snap that, home, game, yeah, whatever, come on, give it a snap. I'm not a particularly brilliant user of Balsamiq, as you can probably tell. Anyway, I have home, game, leaderboard, and so on and so forth as the links. And then we might put in obviously tidy this up for yourself. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then we might have like a text input, for example. If this is a registration form, we might have something like text label here. And then this might be, name. This might be like the name input for like registration purposes and stuff, and you can sort of imagine here if we just very quickly can we do copy and paste? Probably not. So basically we can create a sort of set of text labels and text inputs corresponding to our input form. Yeah. So in this way we can have a look at the sort of layout we're going to get, and then we can go off and implement it later. Yeah. And also run it past the boss, customer, whoever needs to see this before you implement it. It can also be pen and paper. The important thing is that it's clear and well labeled so you understand it, and that the customer or boss or whoever's commissioning the website understands it as well. Once you've got a wireframe that everyone's happy with, next step is translate it into a visual. Yeah, and a visual is basically a version of the wireframe, but with the graphical design elements. It'll have colors, it'll have fonts, it'll have some of the images, so that it looks pretty close to what the final website's going to look like. Yeah. And then you can use tools like vector drawing programs like Illustrator or Inkscape or Photoshop or GIMP, to sort of manipulate photos and all that kind of stuff, yeah? And obviously you're going to choose fonts, you're going to choose like nice little sort of lines and frames and boxes and all that kind of stuff, yeah? So this might be a sort of illustration of a visual. You can see here they've kind of got like all the fonts, they've got some nice boxes organizing different areas, they've got some pictures in there, and obviously all the colors and that kind of stuff, yeah? And the final stage is, in a company, you probably give this visual, which has been created by your design team, to a developer, and they would do the work of translating it into HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, some elements of the visual, like the layout, background colors, borders, and so on, we'll probably render using CSS. Use HTML for the sort of broad structure, like labeling the different parts. And then the more complex visual elements, if you've got like special buttons or logos, that kind of stuff, we might use a vector drawing program or Photoshop to create those. Yeah? And so to create things like logos or fancy buttons or other graphical elements, and also for your games, you might want to use Inkscape to create characters and this kind of stuff. I personally think Inkscape's a really good tool for this. It's free, open source. You can use it for wireframing, although Balsamiq's probably a bit quicker and easier. The Inkscape kind of comes into its own when we're doing sort of visual designs, logos, and all that. Yeah, it's a vector drawing program, which means that it basically defines what you see in terms of vectors, in terms of like lines and boxes and circles, rather than in terms of pixels. So with Inkscape, you can zoom in as much as you like. You're never going to see the pixels. Whereas a Photoshop, it basically lets you change the colors of the pixels on a particular canvas. Yeah. So vector drawing programs better for sort of more less photo-oriented stuff like drawings, cartoons, this kind of stuff, whereas Photoshop's better for sort of manipulating pixels, which is more oriented towards, photos, for example, yeah? You can get Inkscape for free from there. I think it's available on apps anywhere on the laboratory machines. So that's what it looks like. And a good way to learn Inkscape, if you want to do that, is to run the tutorials within the program, yeah? So I'll show you how this works, but basically you start up Inkscape and then select Help Tutorials, and you've got a whole different selection of tutorials. The nice thing about tutorials is that they're actually Inkscape documents, so you can carry out what they suggest in the tutorial within the tutorial. And if that doesn't make sense, I'll sort of try and make it make sense by showing you. So here's an Inkscape document. So for Inkscape, suppose you want to create buttons with a certain kind of design. We could do that, for example, as the background, and then we can sort of pick a font, right, and call it, I don't know, home or something. Yeah, you probably use these as background if this is a real website and put this on top. But I'm just sort of using this as an illustration, right? And we can do stuff like, I don't know, we can sort of add a sort of shaded thing or whatever. And I'm not going to mess around fiddling with gradients in this, but you can see that we can kind of create sort of nice kind of graphical elements and fiddle around with the fonts if we were going to use fonts here. And we can actually create different, if I wanted to, I'd create a different button with on and off behavior and all this kind of stuff here. If you want to follow the tutorials, you see tutorials, Inkscape Basic, and what it does is it launches a document within Inkscape. And then if you want to see panning the canvas, for example, you can pan the canvas, or if it says zooming in and out, you can see what happens when you press the plus and minus keys. And this is a document, so you can actually edit it as you follow the tutorial, which I think is quite convenient. Yeah? When you're designing a website, you definitely need to think about accessibility. People with dyslexia or visual impairments, they sometimes find different fonts or color combinations difficult to read. Yeah, and so any website design should take this into account. And that's actually, this can be a requirement with particular websites like government or school websites. They'll say, well, it has to support, people with visual impairments, blind people, people with dyslexia, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So this is sort of fairly heavy page, but has quite a lot of useful information about that if you're interested. Yeah. It's not a requirement of this course that you design accessibility in, but it's something to have at the back of your mind if you ever get involved in design of a website, commercially. Another thing you need to think about with website design is platform and browser compatibility. Yeah. So in the modern age, right, some people have like massive high resolution monitors that they work on, and other people, but a lot of the time you're also just looking at a website on a small screen. Yeah. To handle this big difference in size, people often create responsive websites that scale automatically, and tools like Bootstrap will do this, and there's also sort of CSS, modern CSS will also support this to some extent as well. Yeah. And so you've probably seen this, some websites, when you look at them on your mobile phone, all the elements will be arranged one way with a little sort of 3 lines, whatever it is, to see the menu. On a desktop, then the menu will expand. You can actually see all the links, and all the elements will be arranged slightly differently. Yeah, that's great. That's important, but it's not covered in this course because there's only so much time that we have to learn on this course. Yeah. The other thing to consider, and it's less of an issue these days, but if you look at browser usage, I bet some people are using some version of old Internet Explorer, but different browsers can sometimes render pages a little bit differently. And sometimes in more extreme cases, you have to sniff the browser and adjust the website accordingly. By sniffing, I mean just detect what platform you're on, yeah? So sometimes that's necessary, but probably not so much these days. And we're not going to cover that in this course either. So for your coursework, you've got 2 pieces of coursework, Coursework 1 and Coursework 2. I strongly recommend you actually create a wireframe for your website before implementing it. And if there's time, we'll do a bit of this in the labs with you so you get an idea about the process, yeah? You kind of want to create a layout you're happy with, something that you can then move on to implement in HTML, CSS without having to change it as you go, which is really painful when you come to HTML and CSS, yeah? You should be able to check nothing's missing, has to be squeezed in later. You might want to add a visual as well, just so you know what the final thing's going to look like, yeah? It's much, much easier to change a wireframe than HTML and CSS, and that's why it's always a good idea to at least sketch it out either on paper or with Balsamic or whatever, yeah? I guarantee you, quick sketch will save you time in the long run, yeah? And also, obviously, it's very important to do research for Coursework 1 as well, look at other game websites, look at how they're designed, the kind of features they have, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so in this video, I've given you a brief introduction to the process of website design. We start with some research, looking at other websites, we gather the contents we need, then we do some wireframes, run the wireframes past other members of the team, the customer, and so on. When everyone's happy with the wireframe, we implement a visual, same process, run it past the customer, run it past the team. When the visual's been approved by everyone, then we move on to actually implement it in HTML and CSS. Recommend you do something like this, obviously without some of the steps for your coursework, just to save you time and enable you to sketch out a design that you're happy with and that looks as professional as possible. And that's it.